Hey everyone, what's up? And welcome back to another behind the scenes of my composing process. I haven't made one of these types of videos since my very first one, so this should be super chill and fun. Like we're all hanging out and making a banger. In the first video like this I made, I was describing my writing process, but it was quite general, like my session organization, song structure, and all that. But I think now that I've made one, I can be a little more specific to whatever I'm writing. This time, surprising to nobody, I'm going cinematic, and in 6/8 time, just for fun. I didn't have any song in particular as a ref or inspiration, just kind of the general imagination type vibe that I like. I've always been a pretty creative person, but I'm not trying to brag or anything though. I find just my general thoughts serve as a good foundation for ideas for composition. I'm just always imagining ideas, drawing them, and picturing how they would sound. I like to combine opposites, random concepts, or whatever I remember from my dream the night before. However, I also get tons of ideas from listening to other game soundtracks or just looking at cool art on Pinterest. It's not always about writing something like what I see or hear, but just a creative jumpstart to get going. But more often than not, it's me picturing myself in made-up scenarios as a epic superhero. But when in doubt and needing inspiration, just go watch a Ghibli movie and you'll be all set. This footage is from when I was writing the song Drawn to the Dream, which is already on the channel if you'd like to listen. I actually sat down to write this after getting home from an early morning shift. I work at this cute coffee place during the day, and when we always play really chill or vibey music, usually jazz or 80s stuff. So I was walking home and planning to write something sorta in that realm, but then I just blanked out and let my music brain do all the work, and then an hour later my song sounded like this. So not quite what we'd play in the cafe. Do you know what I mean by the blank out though? Like, you just get into the flow state, and then you're just in grind mode. This happens to me all the time, but it's almost like it's accelerated or something. My bros talk about how hours will fly by while they work on a track. But for me, I'll blink and I have a bunch of work done, so I think hours have passed, but it'll only be like 20 minutes. Whatever. Music is made and fun is had. Speaking of fun, the most enjoyable part of recording this track was definitely the staccato brass run. I ended up liking it so much, I just kept pasting it all over the place. It's this part here. I love shaking it up with meters, and I feel like whenever you do something other than 4/4, it's like you're discovering all these cool ideas just because it's different than what we're used to. 4/4 time is pretty great though, it's common time for a reason, but I really enjoy 6/8 and all the like. I think the pulses of 2 that 6/8 has really shines through in the C section of this song. That being the part that quiets down with all the pianos and stuff. It's just a more simplified version of the A section, but it has an interesting sound to it, I think. Vibes, right? I love swapping out instruments and velocities too. You can easily get away with a lot of repeating parts if you just swap out a few things. Repetition is easier, faster, and makes everything stick and more connected. And that's like my brand at this point, isn't it? Oh, side note before I forget, I also wanted to thank all the people who have reached out to me on YouTube and Instagram and SoundCloud and stuff. I feel like such a celebrity. To everyone who has asked questions, shared their work, asked to collaborate, or just say what's up, it's been really fun. Even if I don't respond immediately, I try my best, and it's been a real treat meeting so many cool people and fellow music lovers. And fellow Toho enthusiasts. Ever since my video game video, so many people have talked to me about all my favorite games and scores, which is so awesome and a rarity because it's always been so niche and nobody around me knew what I was talking about in real life. So yeah, thanks for being so awesome, guys, and all the traction on this channel. But okay, back to the song. I really like having a sort of formula that I use for most of my fun music, that being the intro A, B, and C sections. I find that if I optimize everything around the writing process, I don't have to think about it as much and I can put all my focus into the writing and creation itself. And for me, that's the best part, and all I want to do. Though, something that happens to me all the time is with the C sections of my songs. This is usually where I quiet things down, have echoing keys, and build stuff back up again into the final hurrah of the A section. However, I often end up making something I really like here, and part of me wishes the whole song was more like the C section. So when I start a new song, in an attempt to make it all C section vibes, I really like it, and I just keep adding and adding until it sounds more like an epic A section. Does that make sense? It's almost like I'm in an infinite loop of getting too excited. Oh, actually, here's a little possible tip for you. I do this all the time, as well as quite a lot in this track. If you ever need a recording or part to get you going, I find making a cool pattern with your root note really helps. For example, this song simply starts off with just a bunch of B flats on staccato strings, played over and over before other parts start coming in. And here's a little secret for you. It never stops. It goes throughout the whole song. No matter what part of the song I'm writing, it's always nice to have something simple to play along to. And since I usually use the root note, it's almost always stable and will work with whatever is played over it. It's kind of like a very simple ostinato. I also sometimes do this with drum loops too. I find if you're ever feeling stuck on what to play in a recording, having something a little more interesting than just a metronome is massively helpful, even if it's a super simple pattern of just a couple notes. Staccato strings are clearly my go-to. And if you'd like, you can duplicate that simple pattern across multiple tracks for more dramatic effect. Well, orchestral stuff is what I like to write. I definitely use a lot more electronic style sound effects as transitions, those being all the lasers, sweeps, droplets, reverse vocals, and stuff that I like to spam. Seemingly more often these days. These are in addition to the traditional percussion samples I use. If I use a sound like that, my personal preference is to duplicate it and reverse it as well. That way, it swells up and then hits the sound on the downbeat, if that makes sense. Just kind of sounds weird to me if I don't have that tiny build-up, you know? Brings me back to rocking out on the suspended cymbal in high school concert band. You can see that I do that all over this track. But overall, aside from being in 6/8, I wouldn't say it has any crazy standout qualities or innovations. I just think it sounds neat, and was another fun song for me to write. Oh yeah, that was another thing I wanted to mention actually. For anyone who may be trying to write music but is feeling some pressure. Music is meant to be fun, so not every project has to be this flawless masterpiece that's super complex and takes forever to complete. That's part of the reason I rarely spend more than 3 or 4 hours on a song. After a certain point, you may just go around in circles. This was a common theme for the bros and I in college. Some would agonize over it being perfect and just perpetually be unhappy with the product. One time we were given an assignment to resample, mix, and bounce 8 songs with stems in 2 hours or so. However, the stems were so poor quality and everything was so tough under the time crunch that none of us liked or cared about the tracks or making something good. So, what was the result? By letting go of that need for flawlessness, all of us had 8 finished products in 2 hours that were, as my professor said, up to par, or maybe even better than normal. For that project, I was actually surprisingly pleased with my results too. Even though we hated it, they were good because we didn't care and we sort of just let go. There was none of this personal pressure. So we had 8 whole good things each. Now, obviously, you should care about your work. Maybe just a little bit. It is your music passion project, after all. But I guess what I want to say is you don't need to obsess over it. I think that's how I'm able to write so much music so quickly. It's almost more about being in this musical mindset for me than just making art, you know? I think that helps with burnout too. This mindset definitely wouldn't work for everyone, but I'm not saying I don't care or put in effort in my stuff. No, hell no, the opposite. I guess it's just being free with it and kind of finding a happy middle. But, I think that'll be enough advice for now. Hopefully this counts as advice. These commentary videos have a little less structure, so we'll see how this does. But hey, why don't we listen to a bit of the finished product? Alright, that sounds pretty good, I think. Nice stuff. Pretty epic. By the way, I wanted to ask you guys what kind of topics you would like to see from these tutorial videos. I've done a handful now on some of my processes? I don't know. With the melody and the game music ones popping off in particular. I enjoy making these and connecting with you all, so please let me know if there's anything you'd like me to cover or explain. I'm always happy to help and talk about this kind of stuff. So, with that, I think we're good and chillin'. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching, and comment below any questions or requests, and I'll see you guys later. Cheers!